Subscribe to Lime English channel. It was a cold winter morning in a small village. The sky was gray and the wind was blowing softly. Everything was quiet and still. The houses were covered with a thin layer of snow, and the trees looked like they were wearing white coats. People were still sleeping, and the streets were empty. But something special was happening in the sky. Big, fluffy snowflakes started to fall. At first, there were just a few of them. They danced in the air and landed gently on the ground. Then more and more snowflakes came. Soon the snow was falling fast and thick. It covered everything: the roads, the fences, the roofs, and the fields. By the afternoon, the snowfall became very heavy. The ground was already covered with a thick white blanket. The snow kept falling and falling. After a few hours, there was so much snow that it reached the windows of the ground floor. The village looked like a fairy tale. Everything was white and beautiful. Inside their warm houses, children were waking up. They looked out of the windows and couldn't believe their eyes. "Look, so much snow!" shouted Max, a 10-year-old boy. His little sister, Lily, jumped out of bed and ran to the window. "It's a snow kingdom," she said with a big smile. Soon other children in the village woke up too. They saw the deep snow outside and got very excited. They quickly put on their warm clothes: thick coats, hats, scarves, mittens, and snow boots. They didn't want to waste a single minute. Winter fun was waiting for them. One by one, the children came out into the street. Max and Lily were the first. They stepped into the soft, fresh snow. It was so deep that their boots sank in almost up to their knees. "Wow," said Lily, "this is the best day ever." The children started to play right away. First, they decided to have a snowball fight. Max made the first snowball and threw it at his friend Tom. Boom! It hit Tom's shoulder. Tom laughed and quickly made his own snowball. Soon everyone was throwing snowballs. They ran around, dodged the flying snowballs, and laughed loudly. The air was full of happy shouts and giggles. After the snowball fight, the children got a new idea. "Let's build a big snowman," said a girl with red mittens. Everyone agreed. They started to roll big balls of snow. First, they made a huge bottom ball. It was as big as a small table. Then they rolled a smaller ball for the middle, and finally a round head. They decorated the snowman with things they brought from home. Someone found a carrot for the nose. Another child gave an old hat. They used small stones for the eyes and mouth. One girl tied her bright red scarf around the snowman's neck. "He looks so friendly," said Lily. The children stood back and admired their work. Their snowman was tall, round, and very cheerful. Next, the children wanted to go sledding. There was a small hill near the village. They took their sleds and ran up the hill. One after another, they sat on their sleds and slid down. "Whee!" they shouted as they flew down the slope. The cold wind blew in their faces, but they didn't mind. They climbed back up and did it again and again. It was so much fun. While the older children were sledding, the little ones were making snow angels. They lay down on the fresh snow and moved their arms and legs up and down. When they stood up, there were beautiful shapes in the snow that looked like angels with wings. "Look at mine," said a little boy named Ben. "It has big wings." The children compared their snow angels and laughed. As the afternoon went on, more and more children joined the fun. Some were having races in the deep snow. Others were trying to walk as far as they could without sinking too deep. A few brave kids even tried to make a small snow fort. They dug tunnels and built walls with packed snow. The sun started to go down, and the sky turned orange and pink. The air got colder, but the children didn't want to go home. Their cheeks were red from the cold, and their noses were pink, but they were happy. They had been playing for hours. Finally, their parents started to call them. "Time to come in," shouted Max's mom from the doorway. "Yes, Mom," answered Max. He gave one last look at the snowman, the sledding hill, and all his friends. "Thanks for the best snow day ever," he whispered to the winter world. The children said goodbye to each other and went back to their warm houses. They took off their wet clothes and sat by the fireplace with hot chocolate. Their hands were cold, but their hearts were warm. They talked about the snowball fights, the big snowman, and the fast sled rides. That night, the snow stopped falling. The full moon came out and lit up the white village. Everything was calm and peaceful. The snowman stood proudly in the middle of the street, guarding the quiet night. The sled tracks and snow angels were still visible in the moonlight. The children went to bed with smiles on their faces. They fell asleep quickly, dreaming about the next snowy day. They knew that winter had just begun, and there would be many more adventures in the snow.